Hey everyone, welcome back to the Yossi Schmidt Show. Today we have Them Miller on the Yossi Schmidt Show. Them, can you? Oh,
Yeah, my name is Van Miller. I am an investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker, and overall media professional. That's been the kind of lane I've been on since like the late 90s.
So I brought you on to discuss the best nomination in the whole world, in the whole universe, as a matter of fact. Best cabinet picks. We have Pam Bondi, who can do no wrong in the DOJ. Christy Noem can do nothing wrong. So what's your take on, all kidding aside, what's your take on the cabinet picks?
My primary focus, and this actually started 10 months before the election, have been Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi. And the reason, well, Susie Wiles was running the Trump campaign. And being an investigative journalist, allowed Thomas Renz, attorney Thomas Renz, who's a great patriot and was really fighting all the COVID nonsense right from the start, has filed a number of lawsuits against what was happening during COVID. Well, he came out and we're friends. He shared some information with me how he had information about Susie Wiles and some of her questionable connections as a lobbyist, having worked with companies like Pfizer, lobbied, that she, and Trump even said this, she's the most powerful woman in the world or the most powerful person in the world because of her connections. And she's tied to all these multinational corporations. But the thing that really seemed to concern Thomas Renz, being one of the attorneys that from the start, he was against the COVID mandates and filed lawsuits and helped people save their family members from hospitals. These drugs were actually killing people. He tells me one of his greatest regrets is that there's not enough hours in the day to march into a hospital with a lawsuit and save people from things like remdesivir that have proven to be fatal to individuals that have COVID. When Thomas Renz told me he had questions about Susie Wiles, and his big concern being that she's tied to all these lobbies and Pfizer, he said, this is the craziest thing. I haven't seen censorship like this on a topic since COVID first came out. Nobody wanted to talk about the questions about Susie. So I allowed him on the Blood Money podcast. We did a really great episode. This was at a time when he was telling me that even Alex Jones is getting these phone calls, semi-threatening type behavior, that don't let this Thomas Renz on your show because he's going to say bad things about Susie Wiles. Well, we gave him the microphone. Subsequent to that, others, including people like Alex Jones, started talking about or allowing Thomas Renz the mic to talk about Susie Wiles. This was 10 months before the election. Now we fast forward to today, where I think what you're getting at is some of the disappointment with what we've seen from the cabinet picks and the lack of action in terms of Pam Bondi. I was disappointed that I thought when the Trump administration came in, which I fought for nonstop for 4 years between the stolen election of 2020 and the election of 2024, I had a different idea what was going to happen, especially in terms of the media. First, I thought all these independent journalists and non-biased voices were going to come into what was a White House press room where you had a lot of mainstream media actors that were putting a lot of lies out there that have got us really to the brink of civil war, doing Orange Man bad and saying things like he's a Nazi and editing things to make him look bad. I thought the response to that would have been a fair and free media. Instead, during the Trump administration, Susie Wiles is the chief of staff and she has a lot of pull in terms of who is let into the White House press room. And Donald Trump has said, essentially, she's more powerful than me in his press conferences. Well, a lot of the people admitted into those press rooms were more influencer types, were more echo chamber types, as opposed to serious journalists. We saw that with the binders, the first Epstein binders that came out. They walked out there prancing and so happy that they got Epstein binders. Well, you throw somebody like a Van Miller into that room and I look at the Epstein binders and I'm going to be like, WTF, man, this is not what you said. And I think that's what they were trying to avoid. So to answer your question, I'm generally disappointed the individuals that have been picked. I'm still waiting for prosecutions for these bad actors in our government, still waiting for election 2020 to be investigated and prosecutions to happen there. And I'm also waiting for Tina Peters, who put her life on the line to get out of prison. Most recently, 2 days ago, she was beat up in prison. She was assaulted. This is a 70-year-old Gold Star mom that is she's the linchpin between all these questions about these machines and the actual evidence she collected to show that these machines are very suspect. So it's upsetting because I'm seeing a lot of patriots, people that fought, put their lives and careers on the line, that are not necessarily being supported by this administration in the ways that they should be. Also, the J6 guys, yes, they were pardoned, but these guys spent 4 years in jail. They lost their jobs. They lost their careers. They lost their reputations. And even though they're free now and they're pardoned, which is to me the least the Trump administration could do, I've heard no talk about restitution. I've heard no talk about taking care of these guys who are going to live the rest of their lives damaged because of having to show up for J6 and for having to spend, most of them spent 4 years in jail, some of them less because they were prosecuted later on, but we're talking about people that spend years in jail and their lives are damaged. And I'm not seeing this administration do close to enough to heal those people, heal their lives. So yeah, generally disappointed. Am I ecstatic that we don't have Kamala, the commie Harris as president? Oh yeah. I mean, I think Trump was definitely the superior option. Do I feel like he's made smart hires to bring the best out of his administration? I do not think so. I think he has set himself up for a loss in the 2026 midterms because of the Patriots being disappointed. I think when he goes out there to do these rallies for the 2026 election, which obviously Susie Wiles wants him to do, I think he's going to be greatly disappointed about the energy out there, the crowds, because people are generally disappointed. Not disappointed in Trump, but disappointed in all the others around him that are supposed to be doing a much better job, and they seem like they are failing.
So I will say this. I'm not going to disagree with you at all. I'm going to add to it. When Dan Bongino, who was a big talking head, kept railing against the Secret Service and then at FBI, now, you might say there were certain roadblocks and whatever, and he couldn't do what he couldn't do because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Could be that's true. And it could be that's why he's leaving, because he couldn't accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, and he's going back behind the podcast. So, because he feels he's doing better there. That could be. What threw him under the boat, or whatever the bus, is when Miranda Devine put out an article, a report, not even her own report, the rudderless ship at the FBI. And he called her Deep State Divine. After he promoted her, you can say it's not true. Don't attack her. Don't call her Deep State Divine. But to attack her, you could either ignore the report. You could either say, we're working on it. I was livid because that's borderline defamation, in my opinion.
I think Bongino has conducted himself horribly. I was very happy to hear his dialogue on his podcast for years about doing this and that, going after these deep state actors. And he gets into the FBI and pretty much does nothing. Then he starts attacking patriots and goes on this blocking crusade. It's clear that people are pissed off at him, disappointed. But then I got to ask myself, why did he behave that way? I've been in politics for quite a while. A lot of people have approached me, like one of them literally a week ago, with this idea they're going to be great patriots. They're going to fight the man. They got all this gusto. And then they find out that involves damage to your pocketbooks. Dan Bongino took a big pay cut taking that job. Usually people don't go from making $5 million a year to being okay with $200,000 a year, right? But subsequent to that, what I do think happened is that he is a partner at Rumble. He's one of the original investors of Rumble. He helped get Rumble going. And if you look at what happened with Rumble, BlackRock bought a significant percentage. And when that happened, I also noticed that what is going on X right now, like people are not banned anymore. What they are is they have labels put on their accounts. And I noticed that the minute that transaction happened, our reach on Rumble was a lot less than it was pre-BlackRock. Same thing I could say with X. There has been a big expose in this last 24 hours where everybody's realizing by running this code through Super Grok that we all have labels on there. I have a bunch of labels. They say that I don't put out hate speech about groups because that's not what I do. I focus on individuals that are corrupt, right? So, obviously everybody knows I've been going after Chad Bianco, exposing him. And for that reason, if people, and I posted this up on my X at not them Miller, VEM, like Michael Miller, just last night, you'll see all these labels placed by Sheriff Chad Bianco, who is a political candidate. And not just Sheriff Chad Bianco, I'm just saying in general his campaign, because now he has this campaign with loyalists all riled up. And lo and behold, I have so many labels on my account that my account suppressed 75%, right? And most of these labels are coming from that. It's not like I don't do hate speech, I don't go after groups, but because I've been going after these individuals, Islam's one that I'm critical of. There's a familial history with that. I'm of Armenian descent, and I've seen what happens when Islam becomes fanaticized. In our case, we experienced a genocide in my great-grandfather's generation, which was essentially a jihad against all the Christian Armenians of the Ottoman Empire, which is modern-day Turkey. Certain topics concern me, but they're not coming from a place of hate or trying to mock individuals and groups. They're coming because I got receipts to the topics I'm talking about. There's historical precedent in terms of individuals I go after, like corrupt sheriffs, corrupt judges. And, I made a list the other day because I'm writing a arbitration suit against these social media companies that have greatly censored me. And I'm like, listen, guys, I've gone after probably a couple of hundred people, removed judges, removed lawyers, removed politicians because of exposés. And I have a decade-long history of doing this, right? Because I'm going after Sheriff Chad Bianco with receipts, that's the reason I have all these labels placed on my account. So I could see why Dan Bongino sacrificed over $4.5 million for the year that he was in the FBI. I could imagine he comes out, he's going to be a podcaster again, he owns part of Rumble, and he gets that call saying, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And he's already disappointed in the system, and he's like, you know what? I already gave up $4.7 million. I'm not going to do that again. F these people that are coming after me, and hence maybe that's the reason for his attitude. I'm just assuming at this point because
attacking him personally for not going after those people. I'm not. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm little Yossi Schmidt. I'm not a politician. I would say I'm going to stay away from running for office. The deep state's real. I'm not attacking it. And social media, I review alternative social media platforms. I put out a very harsh review on Twitter or X over a year ago when Elon decided to be Elon and he removed premium fees. Why? Because people disagreed with him on the H-1B visa.
Yeah.
I was furious.
Yeah.
Look, it's America. You can disagree and feel.
I agree. Look, I've liked Elon and what he brought to the game. Without Elon, without Trump, we'd be in really bad shape right now. Am I happy with the way Elon's conducting himself? Basically, what Elon's doing is he's not banning us, but he's using a backdoor ban when your reach is destroyed because he doesn't like you talking about certain topics. Now, if this is the public square, these are his words. X is the public square. So I got to ask, what kind of public square are we talking about? Are we talking about Tiananmen Square, or are we talking about a freedom of speech square? Because right now, the way they're conducting themselves on the topic you talked about, where, they're going after individuals and, shadow banning and doing all this stuff because they don't like their speech. And then what we saw last night, which was like a deluge, and I'll just probably air at a later date, but look what happened on January 21st, 2026. People discovered that everybody that says anything, look, if you make cat videos, nobody's going to mess with you. If you agree with everything Elon's saying, nobody's going to mess with you. But it seems as though if you're not on that party line of Emperor Elon and what he feels like is okay, or maybe these are the purple-haired people behind the scenes, and I say that metaphorically, not literally purple-haired people, but these leftists behind the scenes, there's censorship, there's labels, there's shadow banning. And killing people's accounts because they don't like their speech. And that's not what was advertised to us when Elon acquired X. I was imagining more like Twitter pre-2016 where I thought Jack Dorsey was doing a fantastic job before, government intervention forced him to do X, Y, and Z. I was imagining that kind of a Twitter where we're going to be able to do our speech. If somebody's like, kill Arabs or kill Jews or kill Christians, yeah, you can't have that kind of hate, violent call to destroy people. But if it's like topics like, we're talking about the H-1 visas and immigration and, bad players in our political offices, there shouldn't be any censorship, shadow banning for that.
100%. I'm on the same point. Wait, let me see if I can pull up my extra view. I should have it in my Google Keeps folders. Oh, here it is. I gave them a 5 out of 10. What really is how are you getting these labels from Super Rock? You're not getting these labels from Exit Transparency team. You don't have a communication department.
Yeah.
Zero transparency when it comes to X. Zero. If Elon feels like responding to you, that's it. There's zero transparency. And he promised us transparency when he acquired X.
Yeah, one transparency I would say is, so this thing that happened last night, I'm actually friends with individuals that know how to run code and essentially have exposed stuff that is not normally available to other people. That code that you actually saw there, we had about 2 months ago. And having that code 2 months ago, we ran that code and found out about all the shadow banning that was happening against my account, right? That shouldn't be like, you shouldn't need the secret sauce to find that out. If you guys are shadow banning it, they don't even tell you. That's not transparency. That's just like insanity. That's like emperor type stuff. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like, do I like Trump and Elon more than I would have liked Jack Dorsey in his last state as CEO of X and Kamala Harris? Yes, much better than the other option. Am I grossly disappointed by both of these men's conduct? The hiring, the labels, the shadow banning? Yeah, this isn't what they advertise. Like, you guys are giving us 20% of what you promised us. And yes, it's better than going backwards like we would have with the other administration and Twitter 1.0, but no, I'm far from happy with what's going on right now. In fact, what is created is like when you have a platform that encourages echo chamber type behavior, and that's what it is, because when you go out of that line, it's 5 days ago when Jake Lang got beat up by a bunch of leftists, everybody was talking about it. And if I go along with what the flavor of the day is, my account will do well because like a good little soldier, I'm like marching with Emperor Elon and his policy versus, I do something different, which is what I do. I don't talk about what everybody else is talking about. I got my own investigation, my own journalism. There's a list of 50 people I want to expose and go after. Obviously, Chad Bianco being at top of that list because he is now one of the frontrunners of the California governor race, and the time is now for that. It's a very timely topic, especially since Chad Bianco falsely accused me of being the third Trump assassin based upon nothing but lies. So that is a topic that is very timely to me. And no, I don't think Emperor Elon and his purple-haired censorship department should be censoring me and limiting my reach.
I could not agree more. If you feel it's time for me to do another review of, I will go straight forward and do it again. It's been a year since the H-1B visa scandal. I was highly upset. In fact, I used the term "go jump in the lake" to Biden of all people. And my personal account got locked out for 6 hours. And then again, I said it to Grok because my opinion on the Israel-Gaza thing, and not the genocide department, I'm not going there, but I said you can't use Reuters as a source and go jump in the lake to Grok of all things.
Yeah.
I got locked out within seconds just for using the term "go jump in the lake." And what was it? Violent speech.
Because it's an AI that's probably interpreting that. That's what I talk about when I say purple hair people, because I've actually met some wonderful, amazing purple hair people. I'm talking about the leftists, the hardcore leftists that want to take us down this communist Marxist agenda. You can't people like that with the finger on the trigger, because that's the issue we've had. You need to have individuals that are okay about freedom of speech. What you just said does not sound like a death threat, but I could imagine this AI, especially if it's written by any of these purple hair souled individuals, is going to think that is some kind of violent call to action, which it's clearly not. And this is another risk that we face. It's like AI interprets things that common sense humans would think differently of what you just said. If somebody jumps in the lake after you make a joke like that, then I think that person is the problem, actually, because they have mental health issues and they shouldn't be jumping in lakes because some guy wrote it on X. You might have exposed somebody's mental health problems and saved them from harming somebody else.
I couldn't. I was laughing. But if you feel like I should go review X again, I will.
Do, man. Please, you seem like a very competent person.
You can talk after the interview.
Let me tell you exactly where it is, by the way. It's on Stu Peters' account. He has it just last night. He posted it and then it went viral from there. You could literally copy it from there. There's a button you click. All you got to do is put on your handle and boom, it'll tell you exactly, anybody it'll tell you the labels that have been placed and the percentage of reach that's been harmed by those labels.
Thank you very much for coming on.
I appreciate it, dude.
I would love to have you on again. We would talk more. I'll come on your show. These phones are very distracting.
What are you doing for work, by the way? You seem like you're at work.
So I run the Lakewood Scoop WhatsApp status.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish, I'm not trying to be segregated. What people have Instagram stories. That's what we did with WhatsApp stories.
Mm-hmm.
So all the Jewish news organizations and sometimes even deal sites, they take WhatsApp status and they post all their deals on things. So I run the status for a local Lakewood news site.
Okay.
Lakewood Scoop. But I got the office for the Digital Free Press, my own thing.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool,
So,
man. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, everyone, hold everyone accountable. Transparency is key. Elon, please listen to me and get us to be transparent. We will see each other. Do you have any closing remark?
No, thank you very much for having me on your show. And I would love to have you on my podcast, Blood Money. I always got that sign behind me because I'm in the Blood Money studio where I do most of my interviews. That's been great, man. I would love to find out more about what you're doing, the Jewish community. You said a few things that definitely, I feel like an interview would be good, man. So good to connect with you here. And thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Everyone, hopefully we'll have another podcast on February 6, 2018. Team with Porter. Now the Free Press was founded. Stay tuned.